Hi, it's Karen from Black Swan Journals, and I'm in the mask making mood. I was really wanting to mask make, and I thought, I don't have any policy envelopes. So I thought, let's do something fun and creative to mask make some of those. Here's some I was working on last night so that I could show you a few prototypes. And here I'm showing you if you have a ruler, one of those tear rulers, you'll get more of a wavy edge like that. And if you have a straight ruler, you'll get more of an edge like that with the one there with the butterflies. So also you'll need some punches to make the closures. And I'm showing you here that those are the only two circle punches I own. And it was either too small or too big. So I thought, let's do something creative and let's use some punches that are out of the ordinary. And I have this butterfly one, and I have this heart one, and I also have a heart one in other shapes, meaning you could stack them up and layer them up and get dimensional and put the smaller ones, on top of the larger ones, and that will look cute as well. Also, I'm going to show you some mask making ways in another video in the future on how to decorate. That little tag, that little cluster is stamped on linen, and I have a way that I mass produce those, and I'm going to show you that in another video. But you could also decorate these. But today we're just going to construct them, make the closures, tie them up, and you'll need some of these tools as well. A bone folder, scissors. You don't need a paper cutter, but if you have one, that would be good. You'll need some of these little brads. They're the little things with the metal arms that open up and spread apart. That's what a brad is. And if you have one of these fancy crocodiles, that's great because they reach in far to punch a hole. If not, I have this hole punch here with a tiny, I don't know what diameter that is, but it's a tiny hole, and those work good. Also, a good old-fashioned awl is great as well. And here's some embroidery floss, but it's not the 6-strand kind. I don't know what you call this, but it's like twisted, and that right there is regular embroidery floss with the 6-strand, and I found that a little fussy, so I didn't use that going forward. I liked the black one I showed you better. And yeah, so here's a nice wavy edge if you have a tear ruler or you want a hand tear. But if you don't and you have a straight ruler, then you'll get an edge like the one to the left there with the hearts, and it's more of a straight. So we'll go over all of these things and we'll make them together, just showing you a little bit of what you can do beforehand. I always appreciate that on videos so that I know what I'm getting into. What am I making? What am I making here? So I try to show you. So first, what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to take some music sheet, book pages, or scrapbook papers, anything to your pleasure, and glue them down to your substrate. I'm using cardstock. These are going to become the closures, so they need to be thick enough to withstand the string going around them and not be torn over time. So this is the first part of the mask making. So you want to glue everything down, squeegee out all the glue, make sure it's adhered really well, set it aside to dry. You never want to cut through something wet. That's why I do that first. Then next, showing you what I'm using. I'm choosing 12 by 12 scrapbook papers. You could do this just with music sheets or book pages or cardstock. You don't have to use what I'm using. But I wanted to mention that mine is thin. It's roughly copy weight. And if I were to do this again, I'd do it with something a little bit thicker because it is an envelope and it should be, I think, a little bit thicker. Anyhow, I also wanted to mention if you have double-sided paper, it's better. If you care about the inside of your envelope, you know, when you pop it open and you take out what's inside, you will see the white. I don't mind the white, but there's some other tricks too. You could coffee dye the white, you could spray, you could watercolor, you could use dyes. But anyways, I don't mind the white. So now here we go. So I'm going to take my papers, and they're 12 by 12 like I was saying, and take my ruler, fold the papers over in half, and that way you know you've got it at the 6-inch mark. Oh, a little hair. We don't want that. Um, I have long hair and I have a lot of it. Anyways, so fold it in half. Now you've got 6 inches on either side. I'm choosing to do 2 papers at a time. Then put your ruler, press down hard, and rip. Rip toward you, tear toward you, and keep going until you're done. And so now what I like to do is choose the papers that are going to go together. So this was the other part of my creative thought about policy envelopes, was rather than doing it with one piece of paper, marry two together, and it becomes a little bit more creative and interesting. And then when you ink the edge, it really becomes a little bit more life to it and more creativity. So but you could also just choose a collaged paper, and that would look quite like this one here, and that would look quite busy and have a lot going on as well. But I wanted to try this. So what I like to do, I just wanted to mention that I thought this through, and I wanted all of these envelopes to fit inside a traditional journal size, which is, you know, like 8.5 by 6, 9 by 6, something like that. So I'm making all of these envelopes that I ended up making them 12 inches by 11 inches is what I started with the paper. So before you rip them, you could cut 1-inch strip off all of them, or after you rip them, you could do it then too. But it seems to be easier to cut without a ripped edge. So now the next part of the mask making is to take each of these papers and get your choice of however you don't get ink everywhere. Mine is using this wax paper today. And here I'm showing you the different tools that I have. I've got this blending brush. It's like a makeup brush. And what happens with these, in my opinion, is the ink goes on way softer. And if you want a good pop and like line of demarcation, you've really got to keep inking it up and inking it up. And it's a lot of elbow grease. But if you want a nice subtle hint, they're wonderful for that. And they really don't leave marks, and they blend really well. So, but I'm gonna go for the old-fashioned Tim Holtz blender here. It's quick for me, it's fast. I'm interested in mass producing here. I also want quality though, so I love this way of inking. To me, it's fast but leaves an organic edge. And put it off to the side, let it dry. And also, I considered what edge I was inking. Like, what edge did I want to have the edge to be seen? And so I kind of thought that through before I inked, and I decided to put those 2 sets of papers on, one on the left and one on the right. And I inked up the ones on the left, and the ones on the right would be the ones that get glued under. So that's going to go on the top like that. So the ones I was playing around with for the prototypes, I inked the other paper as well. And that way you've got ink on the back as well. What I'm showing you here is only going to have ink on the front side and not the back. So I don't want to get too, I don't want this to get ahead of us. So I'm showing you 2 different ways that I was playing around with gluing. And one is using my ruler as a guide so you don't get glue on the other part of the paper where you don't intend it to be. And then another way I'm going to show you in a second here. that I ended up liking better, and I ended up mass making with this other way that I'm going to show you in a second here. So I used a sheet of wax paper or grease paper, and this is the other way of gluing that I liked better. And I keep folding over the wet edge. That way you never get glue on your paper. So anyways, I'm pretty good at, also I can see the glue with the light. I'm pretty good at making about a half an inch glue mark down, because you don't want it all over or you'll glue your envelope shut. Don't do that. So also, if you put it on a little crooked like I just did, don't worry. You can peel it up like I did and redo it. And if you peel it up a lot, you may want to put your glue back on, another batch of glue back on. But mine was quick. So, and then bone fold it down, set it to the side to dry, and bring over your next sheet. Here's the mask making. I love it. I love it. Um, it's a little tacky, so if it's tacky, fold it over so you don't get glue on your project. And then you just keep doing this. You just keep folding it till it goes down to nothing. And then you can use other little pieces of it too if you want. And then, then it's probably done. It's had its use, and, get another piece. Um, if there's some kind of like thing you can wash and reuse, like a mat or something, and people want to leave comments, please do, because I'd love to have something that you're not throwing away. Here, I just thought it might be fun to do a little peek of, some fun treasures I got recently. I got this lovely ginger jar, and super pretty. And I also, oh, look at that. One fell out into that vase. And then I got some beautiful antique buttons, and they're super heavy. I'm assuming they're definitely, real shell, mother of pearl, or is that the Mississippi River ones? I don't know. I'm not an expert on those at all. But anyway, they're heavy, they're nice, they're beautiful, and I'm going to store them in that lovely ginger jar. Just a little show and tell for a second. And then I also found this beautiful dish, and the flowers are really pretty. And I thought, well, I'll keep some brushes in it, or could do, maybe put some flowers in it if it holds water. And I don't think it would hold enough water to use for watercolor, but it could store a brush. So, and just look really pretty on your desk. And then I found this beautiful pin, and I love the little rosebud here on the side. And then I loved all the little jewels in the center were pretty as well. So yeah, some fun things for journals in the future. So I had some heart punches, like I was saying, and I'm going to mass punch. These are dry now. So now I'm going to mass punch these out. And I would say, let these dry for a couple of hours, or do it and then let them sit overnight and do it the next day. So they're super dry. And then just go around the edge and punch. And then the music sheet will, inevitably get in your way. So just cut or tear it off, get it out of your way, and save it for something else, or even to adorn these envelopes if you would like to. And now you can punch around the edge. And after I couldn't quite get to where I wanted to eventually, so I just took my scissors and made a cut, and then I was able to utilize the whole piece here. And now you got some fun little negative space jobbies that you can use making another project, or in this one if you'd like. So I inked the edges. It didn't take any time at all. I wasn't fussy with it. And now we have all of these. I actually counted them. It's like 60. I don't know if I'll need them all, but I've got tons for other projects or other policy envelopes. So here's a bunch that I've inked up and folded already, just showing you what we're about to do. Oh, and also, you don't have to fold them vertically. You could also fold them horizontally, and I had done that to one there, if you noticed. So you could ink them and fold them that way too. So there it is. There's the one I folded the other way. You could do that as well. And you can make them off center. You don't have to make the fold down the center, the rip, torn edge, the inked edge. You can have it sort of asymmetrical, but just remember that your fold in the back would also be asymmetrical if you did that, and if that bothers you. So now we're going to make one. So now they're all dry. Um, they've been set aside. The glue is dry. I wouldn't do this while the glue is wet. Sometimes it can rip and kind of wreck. You can repair it and all that, but this is mass making. It's supposed to be fun and fast. So anyhow, so you just fold it in, and what I do is I like to fold it over about a half an inch. You can choose like a quarter of an inch if you'd like to, but just keep in mind it just is a little harder to glue and not have the glue like, kind of seep out and get where you don't want it to. So now this is the bottom of the envelope, and I usually fold this up about a half an inch, and then I press it down or burnish it down with your bone folder. And now we flip it over and not flip it, but rotate it, and we'll go to the top. And you can do what you'd like, but I've folded mine down approximately about an inch and a half, and I don't measure, I just eyeball. And it ends up being I think around 8 inches by 6 inches, or 8.5 by 6, and that way it fits nicely in a traditional size journal. So now you open it back up and you cut out. Well, first you can do this either way. It doesn't really matter. You can fold it and cut out your little corners, or you can do it like this. But I'll show it to you folded. It's a little easier, I think, less confusing. So you just make a little angled cut there. Don't cut off your corners though. And if you want to take that little flap and turn it over and make it, or you want to take some tool or something, but it's just, if you get some practice behind you, you'll make them identical. You'll see. Don't fuss if they're not. And if you haven't done this before, they don't come out perfect, and so don't sweat it, and don't be hard on yourself. It's supposed to be fun. So anyways, you'll get better as you go. So now what you want to do to reduce bulk is you want to cut out all these corners, and you want to cut on the folds or slightly above the fold, ever so slightly, or on the fold. But not beneath, because then you have this little flap you're dealing with that's just annoying, and you're trying to glue it, and it's weird and messy, and it's like, get out of here. So that's where you want to cut it to avoid that. And so now what is happening now? Am I gluing the middle? Yes, I am. You could glue the bottom. It doesn't matter. And I couldn't remember what I did because I'm voicing this over to cut out all the stuff that might bore you and you don't need to see, and you have a life. You don't need to watch this forever. It's long enough as it is. So anyhow, yeah, so go ahead and glue the middle piece there, as I was showing you before, on your grease paper. And if you want to, you can glue the other side, but just be real careful here, and you'll get some practice behind you, but you don't want to glue your envelope shut. So just be mindful of where you're placing it. Oops, there was a little seepage that came out there. So I just kind of quickly wiped it off on the back of my hand. But yeah, if you're not like me, just, have a towel at the ready, a damp towel or a baby wipe or something like that. So just ensure that it isn't glued shut if you're new. But once you get the hang of it, you'll know that you're not gluing it shut, because it's kind of like muscle memory, you just you know what to do and where to put it, and it just becomes second nature. So here I'm gluing down the bottom next, and fold that up. And if you wanted to ink these prior, like in a mass way, you could have inked the top and bottom with the grease paper. But I have a way to ink them quickly later when they're already made. And so I don't mind doing that. But if that freaks you out and you feel like you're going to get ink in places you don't want it to be, I really don't do that. But, I don't get ink where I don't want it. But if it freaks you out and you want a little more control, I would ink it prior to folding it. So yeah, if you ever get glue on your table, I just wanted to mention it could be the obvious too, but not always. Wipe it up because you'll get it all over your project and it'll drive you mad. So wipe it up. Make sure your table's not sticky. And here what I did was is I used some cut off pieces and I glued it down to make the inside more stable because my paperweight was so thin. If you have a thicker paperweight, you won't need to do this and you'll save yourself some time. So you also could use your little cut off pieces if you wanted to and make little pockets. I don't do that, but I just thought I'd show you just in case you're interested. So in case you want to and you forgot to ink beforehand, these little makeup brushes are so lovely to slip in here and ink inside if you want to. Like I was saying, I don't mind the white at all, so I leave mine alone, but I just wanted to show you as a little tip in case you ever forget and you want color in there. And here's how I very quickly, when I'm mass producing, ink up all my sides. I take that Tim Holtz dauber and I just go around on my wax paper real quick, and I love the marks that it leaves. And you just keep going and set them off to the side. So here I was just showing you I really do like the little dauber better, the Tim Holtz dauber or any kind of dauber better than the makeup brush. It's just faster and puts more ink on, and that's just my taste. So now we're going to put the closures on. So I've already punched the holes in all my closures, and I usually start by putting them on as like a test run, deciding where they should be, and then mark the center of the hole. And then if you have a hole punch that fits them, go ahead and use that. And if you don't, like I'm going to show you, mine doesn't, you can either put your little closure higher if it fits and doesn't bump into the other one, or B, you can use the awl or the crocodile. So also, because my paper is thin, I'm reinforcing my hole here in the thin part with washi tape. I didn't have to do it on the top because I glued the little cutoff flaps down and it's double-sided. So here, I don't know, I was testing out something to maybe, shove in there, but it wasn't necessary. The magazine, it was silly. So I just took it out and said, I don't need that. And my fingers inside, my ring finger and middle finger are split apart, and the awl is going very slowly, twisting back and forth in between the two fingers. So I never, you won't poke yourself or anything, but just be careful. So also, if you have a crocodile, no injuries will happen. Anyways, no, I'm sure there'll be no injuries. Just be careful. So yeah, now I kind of see, composition. If you don't care, just pick them up, put them down, pick them up, put them down. But if you do care, just kind of see which heart which closure you want where. For composition and how your design looks. And so I put my first one in and spread the brad out. So I wanted to say, if this were thicker paper, you could now go over the brad with washi tape and disguise the brad and, reinforce it down. Or you could go over it with other paper, but I just leave mine. And so here, I spread apart my brad first, the arms, a little bit, because if not, I had a really hard time getting it apart. So I spread it apart a little bit, and then I stick it in. And because it's apart a little bit, now I can separate it easily inside, using my mind's eye and my hand, feeling it, and flatten it out rather quickly. before I didn't spread it out. I was driving myself mad trying to, flatten out the arms. So if it works for you, great. But if not, there's a little tip. So now for the string, I'm just kind of measuring how much I might need. Um, and then I tie a little knot on either end of the string with my finger. Do you know that trick where you rub it back and forth between your thumb and your index finger? Did I say ring finger earlier? I meant to say index finger, the one you point with. So I'm going to show you again. Just put the brad inside the first closure. And flatten it out. So if you had thicker paper, I was mentioning earlier, you can leave the brad or you can hide it with tape or other paper. But in my case, I had to sure up my flap there because my paper is so thin, and the brad would need thicker paper to hold it up. So yeah, and then you spread the arms a little, put it back into put it into the closure, slip it into your little reinforced washi tape area, and flatten out the arms of the brad, and then give it a little mash down. So technical, a mash down. Just, gently push it down. Like here, push it down. And you're good. So now I'm gonna show you how to tie it. I didn't show you the other one because my string was too long. And this one just is better. So you make a little knot on your index finger and your thumb, or whatever way you make a knot, and you slip it around. I like to start on the left, but it doesn't matter. Catch the knot, wrap it around once counterclockwise if you start on the left, then go down to the left, then up to the left, and then down to the left, and then that's it. And just keep that in your memory, because that way you'll know how to unwind it and wind it every time without fussing. And now for my exciting news. I applied for GINA Makes Its design team and I was chosen. It's going to be through June, and my first video featuring her beautiful digitals will be on Monday, April 15th. And I will put a video out featuring her digitals every 2 weeks until June. Thank you so much. And of course, I'll always be putting out regular content as well in between. And thank you so much, everybody. See you next time. Bye.